Hey guys, tonight we sail into the mists of the North Sea. Not for conquest, not for glory, but for something far more important. Fashion. Viking fashion. Specifically, their surprising fondness for scented beard combs and bathhouse rituals that would put your modern spa to shame. You'll be the main character tonight, drifting through Viking towns, getting your beard pampered with pine resin and rose oil, and maybe offending a shield maiden or two with your cologne choices. And fair warning, you probably wouldn't survive this if it weren't a bedtime story. Between the cold, the mead, and the beard expectations, it's a lot. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And comment below with your location and local time. I love seeing where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're lying on your back in the belly of a long ship. The wood beneath you creaks like a sleepy bear, swaying gently with each breath of the sea. You can smell brine, oiled rope, and something faintly herbal. Lavender? Could be your cloak, could be your rowmate. Your eyes flutter open as the morning mist hugs the boat, wrapping it in pale silver ribbons. You're surrounded by quiet grunts, the occasional yawn, and one very loud seagull who clearly has unresolved personal issues. The sail above you, dyed deep red and flapping softly, filters the light into a warm blush. It's calming, like being inside a giant linen tent that smells faintly of old wool and seawater. A bearded man with cheeks like wind-chapped apples leans over and grins at you. You drooled on your beard again, he says in Old Norse, but somehow you understand. You wipe your chin, pretend that's never happened before, and sit up slowly. The horizon ahead is barely there. Just the suggestion of land peeking through mist. You're told it's Birka, a thriving trade port where every cloak has a story and every beard has its own routine. The boat glides forward like a content duck, and you notice how different this sea is. Soft, not angry. The waves rise and fall like they're tired of being dramatic. Even the wind sounds bored, more sigh than gust. Your travel companions aren't fierce warriors right now. They're sleepy, scruffy, and smelling faintly of pine tar and dried fish. A man is trying to braid his hair without a mirror. Another is examining a comb made of antler, with more care than most people give their children. Someone hums a tune. You don't know it, but it wraps around you like an old sweater. You hum back. The mist starts to clear, revealing bits of coastline like slowly remembered dreams. You spot a red-roofed hut, a crooked dock, and a goat that seems entirely too interested in your ship. The long ship nudges against the dock with a soft thud. A gull screams dramatically, probably for attention, and just like that, you're in Birka. You step off the boat, and the dock wobbles under your boots like it's laughing at your sea legs. You pretend it doesn't. A child runs by, holding something suspiciously shaped like a turnip. The goat follows. The child seems unconcerned. Birka is waking up. Smoke curls from rooftops. A bell rings lazily somewhere in the distance. Merchants shout greetings, already opening their stalls. You catch the scent of hot barley bread and oddly fresh herbs. That's not a combination you expected, but your stomach says yes, please. A woman walks past you in a cloak dyed deep indigo, pinned with a bronze brooch shaped like a raven. Her boots are carved with little runes. She smells like mint and salt and mystery. You nod politely. She raises an eyebrow. Your beard twitches nervously. You realize everyone here looks good. Not just clean, but stylish. Layered wool tunics, woven belts, beads, embroidered cuffs. There's a man with a leather pouch full of tiny bone combs tucked into his sash like throwing knives. Another has polished his beard into a perfect spiral. You, meanwhile, look like you woke up inside a barrel. A kindly older man with a soapstone necklace claps you on the shoulder. You're due for a wash, he says, pointing toward a bathhouse up the hill. You glance around. Nobody's laughing. This is normal. A cultural expectation. Vikings, it turns out, were remarkably fond of cleanliness, bathing weekly, often on Saturdays, using herbs and soaps made from ash and animal fats. They even had tweezers and ear spoons. Also, they scented their combs. You walk toward the bathhouse, feeling your beard wilt in anticipation. A breeze passes. It smells like birch leaves and confidence. As the wooden door creaks open, steam rolls out like a cat stretching across a windowsill. You exhale. This is going to be interesting. The moment you step inside the bathhouse, your senses are gently smothered in steam, heat, and the distant aroma of birch and something that might be juniper, or just optimism steeping in warm water. The wooden floor beneath your boots is damp and warm, almost springy, like it's been walked on by generations of equally unsure newcomers. A low hum of voices wraps around the room like fog. You hear laughter, water sloshing, and one sharp yelp. Probably someone underestimating the heat of a splash. A barrel-chested man with hair the color of old snow hands you a towel made from rough wool. "You'll want to hang that beard," he mutters. You raise an eyebrow, but he's already walking away, humming a tune that sounds suspiciously like a lullaby sung by someone who also brews mead in a cauldron. You find a wooden peg to hang your outer cloak. The rest of your layers follow, slowly, respectfully, because the room is full of eyes that don't care, but are very good at pretending they do. Welcome to communal bathing, Viking style. The room is dimly lit with skylights, sunbeams trickling through narrow slats in the ceiling. Steam clings to everything, your eyebrows, your breath, even the low wooden bench that squeaks under you like it has opinions. A boy no older than 12 walks by holding a bundle of birch twigs tied with flax cord. He tosses them into a shallow trough of boiling water and nods solemnly at you like he's just performed an ancient rite. You nod back, because obviously you understand. Clearly, someone hands you a carved ladle and motions toward a stone tub filled with water that looks like it could cook soup or people. You ease in cautiously, biting back a comment about your rapidly boiling toes. Once submerged, the heat seeps into your bones like warm honey through cracked porcelain. You relax, your spine uncurls, your beard flattens in surrender. Life is suddenly okay again. Across the bath, two older men are arguing in low tones. You catch words like pine, marjoram, and less sticky. One of them points at a comb with dramatic flair. The other gestures toward his beard as if it's a living exhibit. You realize they're debating beard oil formulas. This is clearly very serious. You close your eyes for a moment and listen. The drip of condensation from the ceiling. The shuffle of bare feet. A quiet snore. Somewhere, someone is humming again. This time it's definitely a lullaby. Your muscles begin to soften like overcooked barley. A woman nearby dips a cloth in lavender-scented water and wrings it out with the skill of someone who's been fighting stress with warm compresses for a decade. She sees you watching and offers it. You take it. Of course you do. You're not a fool. The cloth smells like sleep and summer and whatever peace must feel like when you can buy it in towel form. You drape it over your face and sink deeper into the water. And in this moment, you learn something essential. The Vikings didn't just bathe. They soaked. They turned it into a communal ritual of cleansing, connection, and a little friendly competition over who had the best scented beard. That's the lesser-known part. The widely accepted historical fact is that Norse cultures valued cleanliness far more than most of their medieval neighbors. In fact, English monks wrote with something between jealousy and disgust that Viking men bathed weekly, often on Laugardagur, bath day, what we now call Saturday. But historians still wonder about one thing. Where did they get their scented oils? Pine resin, juniper, and crushed herbs make sense. But there are records, frustratingly vague, of imported oils with more exotic scents. Roses from the east, spices from Byzantium. One saga even references a beard comb that smelled like sunrise and silk. Whatever that means, a soft splash brings you back. A woman has entered with a wooden tray full of tiny ceramic pots and a single delicate feather fan. She sits beside the bath and begins dabbing scented oil behind ears, on wrists, and of course into beards. You watch as a man closes his eyes while his beard is brushed out with slow strokes and the tiniest hint of a smile. His friend gets marjoram, he gets mint. You wonder what you'll get. You silently hope it isn't smoked fish. A tap on your shoulder. The woman gestures to you and lifts a pot. Rose, it's Rose. She brushes it through your beard with a carved comb that smells like sandalwood in confidence. And suddenly you feel elegant, like a very large flower. You look around. Nobody's judging. In fact, someone nods approvingly. You nod back. You're one of them now. Steam curls upward like a sleepy dragon. The windows mist with your shared warmth. And you're now a bearded, glowy, rose-scented participant in one of the coziest customs in Viking culture. Somewhere in your mind, a small sarcastic voice says, "You're definitely not conquering anything today." And honestly, you're okay with that. You shuffle out of the bathhouse wearing freshly warmed clothes, soft, layered wool that smells faintly of birch smoke and clove. Your beard, now conditioned with an unreasonable amount of care, sways ever so slightly as you breathe in the brisk morning air. Outside, the village of Birka stretches and yawns like it's just remembered it exists. Chickens wander freely, ignoring any concept of property boundaries. A child in a too-big tunic attempts to wrestle a goat away from what appears to be a carefully folded laundry pile. The goat wins. The path to the grooming hut isn't marked, but you follow the trail of wood shavings, dropped combs, and the faint sound of philosophical grumbling. Inside a timber-framed shed tucked behind a row of food stalls, a blacksmith-like man is carving bone combs as though they are weapons of war. His hands are huge. His fingers are stained with walnut dye, and his beard, braided into symmetrical ropes, each one tied with tiny silver bells that chime softly every time he sneezes, which is often. He looks up at you, eyes crinkling. "Needs taming," he says, nodding at your beard with authority. You sit. He doesn't ask permission, he just begins. The comb is warm from handling, the teeth worn smooth from use. He starts with a deliberate stroke, then another, like he's coaxing secrets out of your face. "You got good beard fibers," he mutters. "Not too wiry, bit stubborn, probably drinks too much mead." You smile. He's not wrong. He pauses to dip the comb into a small pot of thick golden balm that smells of pine and orange peel. "Imported," he says proudly. "From the East. Traded it for a bronze buckle and 3 decent riddles." You glance around. Do people really trade riddles here? Apparently yes. He massages the balm into your beard with fingers gentler than you'd expect. "Fashion," he says, "isn't just for kings. It's how we tell each other we care." There's a solemnity in his voice. You realize this isn't just grooming, it's ritual. It's respect. It's survival in a land where winter lasts 6 months and personal hygiene is as close as you're getting to luxury. You ask, quietly, about the bells in his beard. He leans in, conspiratorial. "They're for the ravens," he whispers. "Like the sound." He doesn't elaborate. You decide not to press it. He plucks a second comb from a shelf and presents it to you. It's carved from antler, engraved with spirals and what looks like a tiny boat. He hands it over like it's an heirloom or a loaf of bread he's too proud to eat himself. "For maintenance," he says, "and compliments." You bow slightly. He bows slightly more. The unspoken duel of politeness ends in a draw. Outside, you walk slower now, your chin held just a little higher. Not from pride, okay, maybe a little, but because your beard feels majestic. Dignified, like it could negotiate treaties or give motivational speeches. As you stroll past a merchant selling turnip dolls, a group of women in embroidered shawls glance your way. One nods approvingly. Another says something in Old Norse that sounds like polished tree face. You assume it's a compliment. You pass a mirror nailed to the side of a hut, polished bronze, slightly warped. Your reflection looks noble, a bit crooked, extremely fragrant, but noble nonetheless. Historians agree that Viking grooming tools were surprisingly advanced. Bone combs, tweezers, ear spoons, even razors. But what remains a curiosity is how much emphasis they placed on scent. Beard balms, oils, even herbal rinses weren't just practical, they were ceremonial. What isn't fully understood is why. Was it religious? Romantic? Was it just a very long winter with too much time and not enough soap? No one's sure. But you're beginning to understand that in this world, a well-scented beard isn't vanity. It's community. It's care. It's an art form passed down with pride and pine needles. And as the blacksmith's bells tinkle faintly in the wind, you feel yourself relax into the moment. You're not in a rush. You're not in danger. You're just here. A breeze brushes past, carrying the scent of juniper and newly cut wood. Your beard rustles like soft feathers. And for the first time in a long time, your face feels truly appreciated. The market square of Birka opens before you like a linen curtain tugged gently by the breeze. Colorful, bustling, and delightfully peculiar. Your feet carry you onto cobblestones dusted with straw, your freshly tamed beard catching every errant aroma along the way. Roasted barley, smoked fish, melting beeswax, and, oddly, cinnamon. The town smells like someone tried to bake a forest and accidentally succeeded. To your left, A stall draped in indigo cloths shimmers with tiny jars, each containing beard oil blends. The vendor, a woman wearing a hat shaped suspiciously like a squash, offers you a sample with the seriousness of a royal tasting. You choose one labeled Stormwind. It smells like pine needles, sage, and the kind of moss you want to wrap yourself in. She nods as if you've passed a test you didn't know you were taking. Further down, a man with laugh lines like riverbeds is selling combs. Not just any combs. These are masterpieces, carved into dragon shapes, sunbursts, longships, and one that's clearly a fish with opinions. Birch root, antler, amber if you're fancy, he tells a customer. Hand-polished, waxed in goat fat and ash, keeps the frizz away and the gods impressed. You stroke your own beard proudly. You're already waxed in imported balm and compliments. In the corner of the square stands a long bench flanked by two bards. One plays a lyre. The other weaves a story about a warrior whose beard caught fire mid-battle and became an omen. The audience is rapt. And the beard? It's the hero of the tale. A group of boys walk past trading combs like baseball cards. One boasts about a comb his uncle got in Hedeby that smells like snow. The other one scoffs. You can't smell snow. Can too. You take a seat on a low stone wall, your back to the rising sun, which now paints the square in soft gold. People walk by without hurrying. They pause to chat, compliment, and occasionally adjust one another's cloaks. This isn't just commerce, it's connection. Historians know Birka was a major trade hub in the 8th and 9th centuries, with merchants from all over the Viking world, and even as far as the Abbasid Caliphate, passing through. Artifacts found here show an impressive blend of Norse, Slavic, Islamic, and even Central Asian influences. But what scholars still debate is just how much cultural blending happened in daily life, especially in personal habits. How much of Viking grooming culture was borrowed, adapted, improved? Your rose-scented beard, oiled with Eastern balm, combed with Baltic horn, says a lot. You close your eyes for a moment. The square's hum softens. You hear the thrum of footsteps, the gentle clink of coin against bone, the low purr of a kitten tucked inside someone's coat. Someone sets down a cup of warm ale beside you. You thank them. They nod without speaking, like it's a completely normal thing to do. Deliver drinks to contemplative strangers with excellent grooming. The ale tastes like honey and barley and a vague whisper of apple. It makes your fingers tingle. Your shoulders drop half an inch. The stone beneath you warms in the sunlight like a cat basking on a windowsill. There's a woman painting runes onto thin slivers of birch bark. A man beside her dips combs into scented water, letting them dry in the sun like little fish. A breeze passes again, this time carrying whispers of mead and pine smoke and that faint, persistent cinnamon. Maybe someone's inventing Viking cookies. You're not mad about it. You watch a young couple walk by, arm in arm, their beards both braided and adorned with matching beads. Relationship goals. You wonder if there's a Norse word for his and hers hair routine. Probably, because here, grooming is part of the story you tell the world. It's your reputation. It's your version of a resume. If your beard smells like clove and courage, people know what kind of Viking you are. You lean back, your hands are warm, your face feels like a feathered pillow. And your comb, the one the beardsmith gave you, rests in your pocket like a lucky charm. The wind rustles the fabric of the stalls, lifting corners, spinning ribbons, and carrying your thoughts just far enough to feel light. And in that moment, under the hum of trade and the scent of birch balm and roasted walnuts, you feel deeply, quietly, stylish. You're wandering now, not lost, just casually misplaced in the nicest way possible. The sun floats lazily above the rooftops of Birka, casting long golden shadows like silk ribbons across the path. Your boots crunch over gravel and frost-licked moss as you follow a narrow trail that winds away from the market. Behind you, the town hums on, content in its rhythm. Ahead, pine trees rise like quiet green guardians, leading you toward something slower. You reach the edge of a small clearing, where a wooden bench leans against a stone wall, both seemingly designed for loafing. And in front of it, a stream, thin, clear, and singing to itself like it's rehearsing for a woodland concert. You sit, of course, because how could you not? The air here smells less like trade and roasted roots and more like earth and damp leaves, and the kind of moss that would absolutely win most soothing ground cover if there were such awards. A man with a beard like a windswept haystack sits across the stream, legs folded, eyes closed. He's holding a string of carved wooden beads and muttering something that might be a prayer or might be a recipe for elk stew. Hard to tell. You watch as he takes out a narrow, curved horn and dips it into the water. He sips slowly, then rubs a bit of the cold stream onto his cheeks and chin. A cleansing, maybe symbolic, maybe just really refreshing. This, you gather, is what the Vikings called still time. Not every day needed conquering. Not every beard combing required an audience. Sometimes you just had to sit by water and listen to your thoughts, assuming your thoughts were well behaved. You take out your own comb, the one with the carved boat and the smug little fish on the end. You run it slowly through your beard, letting each tooth glide and pause like it's navigating a forest path. As you do, you think back to something a young girl at the market had said, tugging her father's cloak. If his beard smells nice, he's probably wise. It's hard to argue with that logic. You take a deep breath. It tastes like pine needles and confidence. The man across the stream opens one eye. "Mint or marjoram?" he asks, like this is a standard greeting. "Rose," you reply. He nods, closes his eye again. "Ah, romantic." You try not to laugh, but a little breath escapes. Behind you, in the taller trees, birds gossip like old neighbors. Somewhere nearby, a deer is politely stepping around dry leaves. You run the comb once more, slower this time, just enjoying the tiny, tug-free click of its progress. You begin to understand why these combs were so treasured, kept in pouches, hung from belts, even buried with their owners. Historians agree that personal grooming objects in Viking graves are common, especially combs. Some believe they symbolized status. Others suggest spiritual protection. A few think they were just deeply appreciated companions. After all, you wouldn't bury someone with something you didn't love. What no one fully agrees on is the real reason behind their abundance. Were beards sacred? Were clean beards a social contract? Did each comb carry a family's history whittled into each little tooth? You wonder, combing in rhythm with your breath. Inhale, comb. Exhale, comb, like a lullaby for your face. The stream continues its song, skipping over pebbles, ignoring time. You lean back, tilting your face toward the sun, which warms your cheeks and crinkles your eyes. And for just a moment, the world is small, soft, and very far from whatever stress you've been carrying. A bird lands beside you. It stares. You stare back. It blinks twice and flies off, clearly impressed. Your comb rests now in your lap. Your beard smells faintly of victory, or maybe just really good rose oil. And you? You feel still, anchored, gently fascinating, like someone worth listening to. Like someone who just might know the secret to a peaceful morning. A little while later, though it's hard to tell exactly how much time has passed because the sun seems just as casually undecided about moving, you wander back toward Birka's main path. Only this time, you're dressed with purpose. You've just been gifted a cloak. Hand-woven, dyed a deep forest green with a woolly heft that makes you feel roughly 40% more heroic. The inside is lined with something softer than logic, likely lamb fleece or the fabric of dreams. You wrap it around your shoulders with ceremonial flair. But the best part? The brooch. Oh, the brooch. A hand-cast disc of bronze about the size of a well-fed cinnamon bun, decorated with swirls and tiny hammer-shaped runes. It fastens right at your chest, cinching the cloak together like it's guarding your heart from both wind and unwanted small talk. You were handed the brooch by an elderly woman named Sigrun, who had been watching you from a bench, knitting and judging. Once she saw your beard, she stood, examined you like a suspicious apple, and handed over the brooch with a simple, "Well, someone has to wear it." It appears she's decided you are now that someone. You thanked her, of course, with a small bow and a very dignified, "I shall wear it with minimal shame." "Good," she said, returning to her knitting. "Don't embarrass it." Now you walk a little taller. Each step of your boots is echoed by the satisfying swish of cloak fabric. It hugs the wind like it knows what it's doing. The path takes you through a stretch of crooked wooden buildings, where laundry dances above you like festive ghosts. Children dart between legs, dogs bark at absolutely nothing, and someone somewhere is loudly hammering metal like it owes them money. You catch your reflection in a polished bowl resting outside a weaver's hut. The cloak suits you, the brooch gleams, and your beard? Still glorious. possibly more glorious now that it has a cloak to match. A young man walks past, nods approvingly, and says, "That brooch tells a story." You blink. What kind of story? He shrugs. Depends who's asking. Which is either deeply wise or completely unhelpful. Maybe both. You notice now how every brooch you pass is different. Oval brooches for women, circular ones for men, some simple, others ornate, some carved with mythological creatures, others with what looks suspiciously like vegetables. In Viking society, brooches were more than fasteners. They were subtle declarations of status, of region, of taste. Some brooches signaled marriage, others declared wealth. A few probably just said, "Look at me, I sparkle." You wonder who made yours. Did someone pour the molten bronze with intention? Did they carve the tiny symbols while humming a saga tune? Did they hope secretly that someone who combs their beard with purpose would one day wear it? There's a theory among some scholars that brooches carried silent messages, like the social media of Viking fashion. Not loud, not flashy, but if you knew how to read them, a whole life could be pinned to someone's chest. The truth is, no one's sure. But right now, yours tells a story of someone who's open to small mysteries, who accepts cloaks from strangers, who takes fashion advice from sharp-eyed knitters named Sigrun. You step into a courtyard where a small group has gathered. They're sharing bread, dipping it into bowls of something fragrant and too complex to guess. Someone gestures for you to join. You do. No words, just smiles. A spot on a bench, a warm chunk of barley bread passed to your hand without ceremony, and there you sit, cloaked, broached, bearded, and entirely, wonderfully in the moment. Around you, the quiet chatter flows like mead. People discuss the weather, a neighbor's new goat, whether beards grow faster on boats, unconfirmed. A baby squeals with delight as a dog licks her foot. An older man gently tunes a harp, his fingers finding the strings like old friends. The breeze rustles your cloak. The brooch catches the light. And you? You're no longer just visiting this place. You belong here, if only for now. Draped in fabric, scented with balm, fastened with a symbol that may or may not mean person of obvious magnificence. A smile plays on your lips, and even though your feet are still, something inside you is quietly soaring. Evening stretches across Birka like a lazy cat settling into a warm patch of stone. The sky is turning the color of old parchment, streaked with lavender and faintly burnt orange. Shadows lengthen. Lanterns flicker to life like stars making house calls. And right now, you're learning how to behave at a mead hall. No pressure. You're standing outside one of Birka's largest longhouses, a gently slouching structure of timber beams and thatched roof. The door is open, and already you can hear laughter, the clink of wooden cups, and a song about a cow that betrayed a king. It's unclear whether emotionally or logistically. Before you step inside, you're intercepted by a woman who looks like she's been in charge since before the concept of in charge existed. She hands you a drinking horn, freshly scrubbed, adorned with swirling patterns, and just the right size to say, "I have opinions about oak aging." She leans in. "Raise your horn only after the host," she whispers. Laugh at every joke from the man in the blue tunic, even if it's terrible. And never, ever refuse the second pour. "Got it," you say, adding your best, "I am here to be charming and not start a war" smile. Inside, it's warmth and wood smoke and the collective sound of people in various stages of cheerful inebriation. The hearth blazes at the center. Its flames crackle and scent the room with a mix of pine and distant lamb stew. You find a spot at a long table. A man beside you nods, slaps your shoulder once, hard enough to make your beard vibrate, and slides a bowl of stew in your direction. "Welcome," he says, "to the most important meal you won't remember." You raise your horn slightly, just enough to be polite. The host, seated at the head of the table with a gold-threaded cloak, notices, grins, and finally lifts his own. Only then do you follow, taking a sip. The mead tastes like honey, clover, and something faintly like apples that flirted with cinnamon. Here's the thing. Vikings were no barbarians when it came to meals. This wasn't just a gluttonous romp. It was ritual, social glue, political performance, and sometimes a test of grace under very meaty pressure. You lean into the rhythm, laugh when others laugh, smile at the saga singer tuning her lyre. Try not to make a face when someone tells a joke about flatulence and frostbite. Across the hall, the man in the blue tunic stands, swaying with confidence. It's joke time. Why did the Jarl refuse to trade with Denmark? Silence. Because he couldn't handle the Danegeld, he bellows. There's a pause, then a smattering of laughter. It's polite, very polite. You chuckle just enough. The woman from outside watches you from across the hall. She gives a subtle nod. Approved. Someone passes you a plate of dried berries and cheese, so aged it probably has folklore. You nibble, trying to pace yourself. Because rumor has it there's a second course, and your cloak is already fitting suspiciously snug. Between courses, a young skald, basically a bard with storytelling powers and no volume control, launches into a tale about Odin disguising himself as a woman to win a bet. It involves 7 disguises, one unfortunate misunderstanding with a goose, and a calm that may or may not have sparked a minor war. You're delighted, and mildly alarmed by how good your beard smells during high drama. Historians agree Viking mead halls were more than dinner venues. They were centers of community, governance, storytelling, and occasional wrestling matches, emotionally and physically. One lesser-known detail? Guests were often seated based on perceived honor or renown, meaning your spot beside the hearth likely means someone believes in your mysterious, well-scented mystique. There's debate among scholars over just how theatrical these meals were. Some say every gathering included riddles, poems, and boasts. Others argue that was reserved for feasts and special occasions. Tonight, it feels like both. You recline slightly, letting the warmth of the hearth reach your feet. Someone plays a slow, droning melody on a bone flute that sounds like a swan singing underwater. You're no longer thinking about what to say, how to behave, or whether the stew had turnips or regret in it. You're simply here, present, cloaked, brooched, bearded, and fully accepted. At some point, someone toasts to the stranger with the cloak of confidence and a beard blessed by Freya, and the room lifts their horns in your honor. You don't blush, you glow. The mead is kicking in gently now. Your shoulders feel heavy in the best way, like they're filled with sand warmed in the sun. The night deepens. The hall buzzes like a hive full of honeyed laughter. And you are exactly where you didn't know you needed to be. Among the merry, among the mildly absurd, among friends. You wake up at the edge of a rug. Not because you fell asleep, but because the storyteller's voice lulled you into the kind of pleasant haze where your body forgets it's upright. A warm place. A golden hum of candlelight, wool, and roast onions clinging to the air like polite guests who won't leave. But now, you're in a smaller room tucked behind the mead hall, quieter, wood-paneled, lit by 3 flickering oil lamps and one very confident incense burner shaped like a fox. A woman named Yrsa sits cross-legged on a low stool, surrounded by bowls, scrolls, and jars filled with roots that look like they belong in wizard soup. She's a vulva, a seeress, a woman who knows things. Things you probably shouldn't, but now really want to. She motions for you to sit. You do, trying to fold your legs like hers, and realizing that your knees have approximately 700 more opinions than hers. Yrsa chuckles. Even your joints sound curious. She unrolls a bit of parchment. On it, a series of runes drawn in soot-black ink. Sharp angles, jagged like wind-carved stone. Some of them look vaguely like angry stick people. Others resemble the abstract version of, maybe don't touch this. She dips a carved stick into a clay pot and begins drawing a rune onto a small circle of birch bark. It smells faintly of lavender and something that reminds you of sweet onions. Comforting, but with a bite. This, she says, handing it to you, is for your beard. You blink. I wasn't aware my beard had mystical vulnerabilities. Oh, they all do, she replies. It's where your thoughts escape when your mouth is behaving. You tuck the charm into your cloak pocket. It's warm, as if it's already memorized your scent. Then she hands you a scroll. This is a recipe for oil to keep the beard tame and the spirits calmer. You peek at the elegant brushstrokes, birch sap, gooseberry, crushed marigold, and a splash of rain collected under a crescent moon. You suspect she added that last one for drama, but you nod solemnly anyway. As she talks, you catch glimpses of items around the room. Bundles of dried mint tied with copper wire, a shallow dish of black salt, a small bowl labeled for dreams only. It smells like sleep in old books. Yrsa leans closer. Would you like your fortune? You hesitate, then nod. She pours goat's milk into a smooth obsidian bowl, stirs 3 times clockwise with a twig, then flicks it twice in the other direction. You stare into the liquid. Nothing happens. Then something does. Not a vision, exactly, but a feeling, like remembering a dream from childhood. Foggy but warm, like a wool blanket with tiny bells sewn in. Yrsa watches you closely. Do you see the peach? You weren't expecting that? No. Good, she says. That means you're ready. For what, she doesn't say, which is either comforting or alarming. Possibly both. She wipes the bowl clean and sets it aside like it just finished telling a particularly juicy secret. Then she hums, low, tuneless, but oddly hypnotic. She gives you one last gift, a small bottle of beard oil. Scented with rosemary and a little bit of foolishness, she says, because confidence without humor is just arrogance in disguise. Historians agree that Viking grooming wasn't just about hygiene. It was deeply social, even spiritual. Archaeologists have found traces of plant oils and perfumes in grooming kits. But what those scents truly meant, that's debated. Were they used to impress, to cleanse, to commune with something bigger? No one knows for sure. But tonight, under the amber lamp glow with your scroll in hand and the scent of rosemary warming your skin, you feel the answer isn't in books. It's in the moment. Yrsa rises. Take the charm. Use the oil. And when someone asks what makes your beard smell so calm, say magic and gooseberries. You stand, thank her, and step back into the cool night. Your beard smells magnificent, and your thoughts, they're quieter now, like they're waiting for something beautiful to arrive. It's later now, but not quite late. The sky wears a soft blue-gray shawl, and Birka glows like a story told in candlelight. The paths are quieter, the laughter more mellow. Even the wind seems to tiptoe around the village, rustling branches like it's flipping pages in a bedtime book. You're meandering toward the edge of the settlement, drawn by the smell of roasting fish and, is that basil? You round a bend and find her. The Shield Maiden. She's sitting on a low stone wall, sharpening a small axe with the calm focus of someone filing their grocery list into battle readiness. Her cloak is navy blue, pinned with a brooch shaped like a raven. Her hair is braided down one side, the other shaved just enough to say, "Yes, I am that serious." You nod. She nods back. You sit beside her. Silence. Then she tilts her head, sniffs the air dramatically, and says, "You smell like rosemary, honey, and something else." You raise a brow. Is it beard oil and unresolved ambition? No, she says, amused. It's like summer rain hitting warm rocks with a hint of roasted goose. You both look toward a hut where someone is indeed roasting a goose. That, she adds, was not an insult. Good, you reply, because I was about to be proud of it anyway. She laughs, a short, unexpected thing. Then quietly, "What are you doing out here, scented and mysterious?" You explain. The bathhouse, the cloak, the brooch, the fortune-telling. The scroll, the goat milk, the vaguely edible charm, the scented oil that probably contains either deep wisdom or accidental potion ingredients. She listens, sharpening slower now. Sounds like a proper saga, she says. You're only missing a quest, and possibly a tragic flaw. You shrug. My tragic flaw might be snacks. That's valid. You ask about her name. She says it's Brynhild. You raise a brow at the poetic weight of it. She shrugs like it's just something she picked up one day between training sessions and questionable decisions. She gestures at your beard. I'd trade 2 goats for that sheen, you grin, only if they're polite goats. Fair, one's got attitude, the other screams. A quiet settles again. Not awkward, more like 2 pages laid gently on the same table. Then, because it seems right, you ask, so how does one flirt with a shield maiden? She pauses. First, smell nice, she says, deadpan. That's non-negotiable, you nod solemnly. Second, she continues, don't try to impress her with battle stories unless you've actually been in one. No one likes a saga fisher. Noted. And third, she leans in slightly, just enough for you to catch the glint in her eye. Tell her something no one else has. You think. Then you say, Yrsa told me I have a beard where thoughts escape when my mouth behaves. Brynhild blinks, then laughs again, bigger this time, warm and full. That's new. A moment passes. She stands, tosses her axe in the air, catches it, and says, Come, I'll show you where the best pine cones grow. They smell better than your beard. Doubtful, but you're curious. You follow her past the last cottage, down a narrow trail lined with moss and soft-spoken trees. The sky is now a sheet of pewter, stars beginning to poke through like gossip. As you walk, Brynhild tells you about a woman who wrestled a bear into a barrel because it looked hungry, about a man who used fermented herring as a weapon, about someone who tried to dye their beard blue to scare off rivals and ended up with an allergic reaction so dramatic it became a cautionary folk tale. Viking flirting, you realize, is less about compliments and more about trading the best ridiculous stories at the right moment. You arrive at a clearing filled with low-slung pine trees. The air smells fresh and slightly mischievous. She hands you a pinecone. This one, she says, is your spirit pinecone. Guard it or roast it. Both are valid. You accept the gift with all the gravity it deserves. Thank you. I shall name it Thistlehelm. Perfect. You both sit for a while in companionable silence, listening to the trees hum their slow green song. Somewhere between a mead hall and the misty pines, you've found something better than answers. You've found belonging. Later that night, if we can still call it night, since the stars seem content to whisper rather than shine, you find yourself alone again, wandering back toward the docks. Brynhild left you with a nod and a "don't trip over any goats," which felt like Viking for "see you soon." You're still clutching Thistlehelm, the pinecone, like it holds the power of mild courage and excellent forest smell. The path is soft beneath your boots, mossy, packed with the quiet of thousands of stories that never needed shouting. A breeze floats in off the water, carrying the scent of salt and something faintly sweet. As you near the shoreline, you see a group of figures crouched near the shallows. Lanterns bob around them like fireflies in training. They're working on something. Delicate, careful, precise. You move closer, quietly, like curiosity on tiptoe. Turns out, it's a group of crafters, shipbuilders and woodcarvers, smoothing planks, whispering over knotwork, and humming tunes with no beginning or end. One of them looks up. He's older, beard streaked with silver, and eyes like crumpled parchment, weathered but full of ink. "You look like someone who needs a purpose," he says. You blink. He gestures toward a stool and a thin block of wood. "Sit, sand, think. Don't talk, unless you do, in which case, keep it weird." You accept the offer with all the grace of a philosophical sea otter. The block of wood is smooth and warm, as if it has already made peace with its future. You begin to sand. Soft strokes. Gentle rhythm. Grain revealing itself like secrets written in whisper. The old man begins telling a story. Not directly to you, but not to you either. He speaks of a boy who carved his dreams into the hull of a ship, then forgot to name it, so it drifted for 20 years, collecting lost socks and stubborn wind. He tells of a woman who used scented oil on her ship's figurehead so it wouldn't get seasick, and of a sailor who swore the moon once winked at him during a storm. You listen, sanding. The wood grows smoother. He passes you a set of small carving tools. Your turn. You hesitate. "What do I carve?" He shrugs. "Whatever your beard is thinking." You glance at the wood, then slowly begin etching a design. Nothing elaborate, just a spiral, then a swirl, then a set of tiny waves circling a pinecone. "Ah!" he says, peering over. "You've met Brynhild." You blink. "How?" He taps his nose. "Only she would give someone a pinecone and not explain what it means." You smile. As the night deepens, more figures gather, some bringing their own carvings, others just bringing quiet. One woman is stitching sailcloth with golden thread that catches the light like stardust. Another hums a lullaby that seems to slow time itself. And you carve. Not with skill perhaps, but with something better. Presence. Intention. The kind of sleepy focus that only comes when you've been well fed, lightly flattered, and possibly fortune-read with dairy products. Historians say Viking shipbuilding was an art form. Fast, sleek, with curved lines designed to dance with waves rather than fight them. They say some ships were buried with their owners. Others were sent to sea, aflame and glorious, full of belongings and hopes and probably at least one confused cat. What they don't often say is that carving, for many, was prayer. Not loud, not grand, but personal, spiritual. A way to give the sea a name to remember. Tonight, you give the sea a name. Thistlehelm, you whisper to the breeze. Because why not? You finish your carving. It's uneven, strange, and oddly beautiful. The old man nods. That'll float. You're not sure if he means literally or metaphorically. You don't ask. Instead, you place the pinecone gently beside your wooden block, both now etched with quiet intention. You stretch, yawn, and let your eyes scan the horizon. The water is ink, the sky, a soft smudge of charcoal and starlight, and the scent of pine, beard oil, and roasted goose still lingers faintly, like the memory of a particularly vivid dream. You feel settled. grounded, sanded down in all the right ways. It's well past midnight now, though in this far northern sky, midnight looks more like the world holding its breath. A silvery blue wash coats everything in soft light, like moonlit milk poured over the village. You walk slowly. Your boots crunch gently against the frost-dusted path that winds between sleeping huts and whispering trees. Birka has gone still, its people tucked into thick woolen bedding, their dreams probably filled with goats and capes or heroic beard competitions. Only the stars are busy now, winking above you like old friends with secrets. You hear it before you see it, a soft humming, rhythmic and strange. Not a tune exactly, more like breath turned into sound. It calls you toward a clearing beyond the last row of homes. There, standing barefoot in a patch of frozen moss, is a man wrapped in what looks like 20 layers of wool. He's holding a comb. It glints under the stars, long, carved, and inlaid with tiny pieces of bone that shimmer like snowflakes trapped in amber. He doesn't notice you at first. He's busy, combing his beard. One stroke downward, pause, inhale, exhale. Another stroke, his breath clouds the air like speech he forgot to say out loud. Then he sees you and gestures silently to a nearby rock. You sit. The cold seeps through your cloak, but in a good way, like the kind of chill that makes your blood remember you're alive. This, the man says softly, is the midnight beard ritual. You nod. Of course it is. He dips the comb into a small wooden bowl at his feet. The liquid inside is thick, golden, and smells faintly of honey and firewood. He continues combing. 100 strokes before sleep, no more, no less. You ask why. He shrugs. It's for dreams. And because everything in Birka seems to operate by an unspoken invitation, he hands you the bowl. It's warm. You dip your fingers into it. The oil is thick but glides across your palm like silk wrapped in confidence. He hands you a comb. Yours is smaller, made of polished cherry wood, with a tiny bear carved into the handle. You begin. One stroke downward, slow, intentional. The oil sinks in. 2 strokes. Your beard thanks you quietly. 3. The stars feel closer somehow. The man continues beside you, counting softly under his breath in Old Norse. 4, 5, 6. It's hypnotic. Somewhere around 30 strokes your thoughts begin to loosen. Not disappear, just soften, like snow falling on already soft snow. At stroke 50 you realize something else. This isn't about grooming. It's meditation disguised as habit. A nightly rhythm that tells the mind, it's safe now, you can rest. Historians still debate how much of Viking ritual life was spiritual versus practical. But here, under the moonlight, with warm oil on your fingers and the scent of resin in your nose, the question feels less important. The answer is both. Always both. 80 strokes in, your breathing syncs with the motion. 90, and you can't tell if the stars are brighter or if your eyes have just decided to let go. At 100 you stop. The man nods once, like a priest closing a ceremony. Then he stands, presses his hand to his chest, and vanishes into the trees. You sit there a moment longer. Your beard glistens faintly in the starlight. Your hands smell like sleep in forest. You lie back on the moss and listen. The trees creak gently in the wind. Somewhere far off, an owl questions the silence. And above, the sky keeps whispering stories you don't need to understand. Only remember, you wake to the gentle sensation of pine needles brushing your cheek. Well, either that or the soft judgment of a squirrel who resents your choice of sleeping spot. Birka is beginning to stir again. The sky blushes a pale pink, the kind of color that only exists when the sun is stretching and trying not to yawn too loudly. Your beard feels excellent. Silky, subtly fragrant, slightly smug. You rise slowly, brush moss from your cloak, and make your way toward the center of the village, where smoke curls lazily from chimneys and breakfast fires whisper their sizzling promises. Near the blacksmith stall, you spot a small crowd. Vikings, gathered around something with the energy of a friendly disagreement. Or a debate. Or possibly a culinary competition disguised as an argument. You get closer and realize what's at stake. Beard comb ingredients. 2 elders are at the center, standing on opposite sides of a wooden table cluttered with bowls, jars, and bundles of herbs that could easily double as a tea shop for druids. On the left, a woman named Ingrid, tall and straight-backed, wearing a cloak embroidered with lavender sprigs. She insists that true Viking beard oil should be made with beeswax, lavender, and crushed juniper berries. It soothes the skin, she says, swirling a wooden spoon like a wand, and it smells like wisdom. On the right, a man named Torvald, whose beard could qualify for citizenship. He favors pine resin, smoked birch, and a tiny pinch of goose fat. It keeps it shiny, he declares, and frightens mosquitoes. They both turn to you. Well, Ingrid asks, what say you, lavender or resin? Torvald crosses his arms. Speak truth, O sweet-smelling stranger. You blink. You are suddenly the unwitting judge of the Birka beard blend debate of the decade. You sniff each mixture. Ingrid's is gentle, floral, like a forest on a lazy spring afternoon. Torvald's is earthy, sharp, with a smoky undertone that suggests he's wrestled at least one tree. You clear your throat. I like both. There's a pause. A goat bleats in the distance, possibly in support. Ingrid raises an eyebrow. Both? You nod, a bit faster than necessary. A dash of lavender, a hint of pine, a whisper of birch smoke, and maybe one polite goose. Torvald squints. What kind of whisper? Like a goose asking for directions. Another pause. Then Torvald laughs, loud and warm. Ingrid chuckles too, though she hides it in her sleeves like it might get away. They decide, after much nodding and herb sniffing, to try your suggestion. You watch as they begin measuring, mixing, and muttering over the bowl like it's a potion that might summon good dreams or decent weather. Historians still wonder, someone behind you murmurs, if the Vikings cared this much about scent. But you know the truth now. Vikings didn't just raid and roar. They bathed, they groomed, they combed their beards by starlight, they argued over lavender, they chased pine cones, they told stories around goose fires, because life wasn't just battle axes and sagas. It was scent and softness, and the knowledge that looking and smelling your best was its own kind of courage. A child nearby dips a finger into the bowl and wrinkles their nose. Tastes weird, they say. Ingrid gently steers the bowl away. It's for beards, not bellies. Torvald pats the child on the head. Someday you'll understand. You sit back and watch as your accidental recipe becomes the new standard. There's a kind of peace in this moment, a quiet joy. And as the sun climbs higher, casting gold onto every wool cloak and weathered brooch, you realize that maybe the real treasure of Birka isn't gold or glory. It's the smell of pine, the feel of oiled wood, and the laughter of two elders discovering they were both right. You're now something of a celebrity. Not the kind that requires bodyguards or autograph scrolls, but the gentler kind, where people smile when you pass, and someone hands you a warm roll without asking what you want on it. Your beard, now the subject of several admiring glances and at least one impromptu poem, is legendary. You're fairly certain it has its own fan club. This morning, however, is different. Quieter. You slip away from the market bustle, passing a row of sleeping geese, and make your way down to the water's edge again. The same stream where you first combed beside the quiet man with the eye for rose oil and prophetic hair. Mist drapes the landscape like a silk shawl. The reeds along the bank bow slightly, as though offering a sleepy greeting. You follow a path that twists behind a small hill, and there, tucked between two mossy boulders, is a small hut. It's clearly ancient. Not in a crumbling, unsafe way, but in the sense that the wood remembers things. The door is slightly ajar. A little hand-lettered sign hangs from it. For beards and bigger questions. You knock. No answer. So you do the only logical thing. You go inside. It smells like cedar, old ink, and a hint of pickled herring. Scrolls are stacked along the walls, some tied with twine, others casually rolled and tucked into crevices like messages waiting for the right ears. At the center sits a table, and on the table sits another comb. But this one is different. It's massive, too big to use, more sculpture than tool. Carved from what might be whalebone, with intricate knotwork spiraling from tooth to spine. One side depicts waves, the other, flames, and along the top edge, etched in tiny curling runes, for taming storms within. You run a finger along the grooves. The comb vibrates gently. Not in a magical way, more like a wooden sigh that's been waiting centuries for company. Next to it lies a small journal. You open it. The first page reads, "This is not a beard story. This is a storm story disguised in hair." The rest is filled with notes, scribbles, fragments of thoughts. Some combs untangle knots, others untangle days. If your beard catches a dream, do not brush it out. Historians still debate whether Viking combs were sacred. But let's be honest, what else would you trust with your face? You smile, you sit down and begin to write. Not about battles or ships or distant lands, but about the quiet things. about how the smallest tools often hold the biggest truths, about how grooming is not vanity, it's ritual, it's care. It's claiming a few moments for yourself in a world that moves too fast. You write about the stream, the market, the pinecone named Thistlehelm, and Brynhild's fortune-telling nose. You even write about the goat, briefly, for accuracy. And finally, you close the journal, place the comb carefully back on its silk cloth, and leave the hut exactly as you found it. Because some places aren't meant to be changed. Just visited, remembered, shared quietly over the sound of a beard being combed beneath the stars. You step back into the morning mist with a softness in your chest that feels earned. Not the kind of softness that fades, but the kind that lingers. Like the warmth of wool after a long walk, or the echo of a laugh you didn't expect to miss. Birka is waking up. Children dart through the alleyways with half-eaten bread in hand, and traders are hauling their wares into place with sleepy determination. You can smell wood smoke, fish stew, and something sweet, possibly honey cakes or mildly successful experiments with fermented fruit. You find yourself back in the heart of the village, where a large wooden platform has been set up. At first glance, it looks like a place for announcements or perhaps dramatic goat storytelling, a local favorite apparently. But today, it's been transformed into something far more dignified, the first annual beard pageant of Birka. A carved wooden sign declares it, with a doodle of a beard so grand it may require a permit. Vikings gather by the dozens, some serious, some amused, all magnificently bearded. There are braids, beads, curls, twists, and at least one participant who appears to have woven flowers, bones, and what might be a fork into his facial masterpiece. You're gently nudged toward the stage by Brynhild, who reappears like a folklore character that arrives precisely when necessary. "You've been nominated," she says. "For what?" "Most unexpected beard presents," she replies, and hands you a sash made from embroidered linen and mild panic. You climb onto the platform, the crowd cheers, politely. One contestant bows deeply. His beard is oiled, perfumed, and contains 3 polished shells and an entire small fish. Another flexes his chin with such force it creates a light breeze. The judges, 3 elderly women with matching fur cloaks and matching expressions of amused authority, examine each beard with the gravity of stargazers. You stand still, trying to appear both humble and mysterious, like a traveler who once dreamed of combs and now cannot stop smelling of pine. The judging takes a while. There are tiebreaker sniff tests. There is beard poetry. At one point, someone juggles beard oils and nearly sets a tablecloth on fire. And then, finally, they announce you as the winner of Most Soothing Beard Aura. The sash is upgraded. You are handed a bouquet of herbs and a jar of something labeled Midsummer Beard Jam. Contents unclear, possibly metaphorical. The villagers clap, laugh, and someone starts playing a soft tune on a flute carved from elderwood. Brynhild leans in and whispers, "Not bad for someone who didn't know pine cones were social tools." You grin. Historians rarely note these things. They speak of Viking raids, swords, burial ships, and epic sagas, but they often leave out the pageants, the jokes, the rituals of care. The deep belief that how you tend to yourself says everything about how you show up for the world. And so, sash and beard shining under the soft sun, you step off the platform with grace, because this too is history. The day folds itself into golden light, and Birka hums like a lullaby you didn't realize you knew the words to. You wander once more, this time slower, every step cushioned by the kind of quiet you only get in places that take their time. You pass the baker, who hands you a warm honey cake without a word. You bow in gratitude, crumbs already dusting your cloak before you've taken 3 steps. The village grows softer as the sun lowers, colors melting into amber and deep blue. People gather in clusters, sharing meals, stories, laughter, and a peculiar local game involving polished stones and exaggerated eyebrow waggles. Eventually, you find yourself back at the edge of the forest, where the pine trees sway with slow, knowing grace. You sit beneath one, and beside you, gently as if summoned by memory itself, appears the man with the quiet voice and legendary beard from your first night here. He doesn't speak. He just places something in your hand, a small comb carved from whalebone, smooth and warm like a stone kept in a pocket all winter. It's yours now. You nod, and he nods, and that's the whole conversation. The wind picks up slightly, carrying with it the scent of wood smoke, pine, and whatever magical nonsense someone left simmering in a pot. You begin to comb your beard again, slow, deliberate strokes. 1, 2, 3. Each stroke pulls a little tension away. The worries, the rushing thoughts, the tiny obligations you forgot to finish, they unravel, curl into nothing, and float up into the branches. And with each pass of the comb, your mind settles deeper. By now, the stars have begun to appear. Just a few, shy and scattered like children peeking through curtains. The moon isn't full, but it doesn't need to be. It hangs quietly above, content to be part of this sleepy moment. The villagers are lighting lanterns now, small ones made of colored silk that sway and bob with the breeze. Someone begins humming a low song in Old Norse, the kind that seems designed to be heard from a distance. You stay seated, just breathing. The comb moves slowly in your hand. Each pass feels like it brushes not just hair, but time. You think of everything you've experienced here. The goose, the pinecone diplomacy, the impromptu beard poetry, and the joy of watching two elders realize they both make perfect oil. It's a soft kind of full circle. And you wonder, as the last light fades and the sky becomes one vast deep breath, what kind of stories historians won't write down? The smells, the laughter, the quiet rituals performed when no one is watching. Historians still wonder how Vikings survived the cold. Maybe the answer is this: they knew how to warm themselves with stories, with oil and wood, with combs carved from bone and silence shared under stars. You lie back once more, the earth cool beneath you and the night wrapping itself around your shoulders like the softest wool. Your beard catches the breeze. It smells like pine, lavender, and a hint of something untranslatable. And somewhere deep in the trees, a very proud pinecone watches you sleep. The night now holds you gently. The sky above is velvet dark, dotted with stars so still they seem like they've always been there, waiting for you to notice. A hush falls over the village. Lanterns dim, footsteps fade. Even the geese, those vigilant guardians of mischief, have tucked their heads beneath their wings. You lie still, wrapped in the softness of twilight and the memory of combs and pine needles. The ground beneath you is firm but forgiving, like a favorite old mattress, and the breeze rustling the trees feels like it's whispering lullabies from 1,000 years ago. There is nothing to fix, nothing to remember, nothing to plan, just you and the rhythm of your breath. A slow inhale, a long, warm exhale. The forest stretches around you, ancient and kind. Its shadows curl like ribboned ink, and every branch leans just slightly, as if offering shelter. Somewhere, a flute plays faintly, so soft it might be a memory more than a sound. You are safe, you are still, you are exactly where you need to be. Imagine the light from a lantern flickering beside you. Imagine its glow reaching your hands, your cheeks, your chest. Let it fill you with warmth from the inside out, a warmth that travels all the way to your toes. Let your body grow heavier now, limb by limb, no urgency, no effort, just soft release. Let your thoughts drift like lanterns on water, slow, glowing, unhurried. You've combed through the myths, wandered through time, and now you've earned this quiet. Let it wrap you in silk and silence. Close your eyes, let go. You're not just falling asleep, you're floating gently into another dream.